All right, cool. I have today Jaime Pinder, IFBB Pro, retired figure pro. Is that accurate?
Retired women's physique pro.
Oh, I apologize. The other girl.
That's okay.
The other girl coming on is figure your physique. I'm sorry. There's so many friggin' divisions. You get confused.
I know.
It's unbelievable. I apologize. But
okay.
my Michelle Frankel, who is now a friend, came on, and she was the one who told me I should interview you because you are a tremendous person and advocate for women's athletes in the IFBB and a wealth of knowledge. So here we are.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
So what made you, I mean, a lot of people, did you choose the class that you wanted to be in and you grew into it? Or was it just like, okay, well, this is where I fit?
So it's actually kind of like an interesting story because when I first got into bodybuilding, I actually am one of those people where like, I kind of like knew bodybuilding existed most of my life. I didn't really follow it. I wasn't really a fan. But it was like in high school when I started seeing like the Oxygen magazines on the racks and I was like, ooh, like, what is that? Those girls look at me. And I always like admired that a very like athletic look for a female. But in high school, I was not an athlete. I failed gym class. So when people like see me as a professional athlete now, it's like, what? Like totally unexpected. So I kind of like went from not being in athletics at all. I was very clumsy growing up. I just never really got into, I was a cheerleader, but we were the cheerleaders that smoked cigarettes, like under the bleachers. We were not the ones going to competitions, throwing girls up in the air. So definitely not an athlete growing up. And then once I actually was a very bad alcoholic. I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And I woke up one day and I was like, this is not the life I want. I wasn't happy with my body. I wasn't obese or fat or anything, but I was like skinny fat. And so I was like very unhappy with my body. I was like not even 25 years old and I looked like I was 35. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, I need to stop drinking. I need to stop smoking. This is not the person I want to be. And when I did that, I was like, what am I going to do with all my free time? Because I used to just go to bars all the time and drink. So I ended up going to the gym. I met another competitor there and she kind of like took me under her wings. I went to her first Pro Qualifier, which was Team U. I think it was back in 2008. I want to say it was the very first year they gave out pro cards for bikini. And she got one of the very first bikini pro cards, along with a bunch of other women you don't want to see on the beach in a bikini. Right. That was a very interesting first year for bikini because there was a lot of girls who showed up that like, they didn't even look like they worked out and they got pro cards that year. Yeah. So this is where my journey started though, because I'm in the audience. This is my very first bodybuilding show and the figure girls come out and I'm like, oh God, I'm like, I want to do that. Because like I had seen my friend do the bikini thing and the posing and I was like, yeah, that's not like, I was like a work boots and sneaker girl. Like I was not wearing heels. And so, when I saw figure, I was like, oh, that is like, because they didn't have women's physique back then.
That's right.
So that was my ultimate goal at first was to do figure. My very first coach though, was not really a coach. He like owned a gym. And so he was like helping me with and so he was like, you have to do bikini first. He's like, you have to start there and then you have to progress. And so I did bikini. And for my first 2 years, I hated it. I was terrible at the posing. I was terrible at the stage presentation. It just wasn't me. And so the first year I didn't even show up really in good shape. I mean, I didn't really belong on stage. But I'm happy that I had that experience because that failure and looking so bad really like lit the fire under my ass. And so then I came back and I did bikini again because my coach said that's what I should do. But that year I was like, no, I'm ready for figure. I want to do figure and ended up listening to my coach. I got last place in all of my bikini shows because I was too hard and I was too lean. I was too big. So had I done figure, I probably would have done a lot better. Because I definitely looked figure in a bikini suit, basically. And then it was after that year was the first year they brought out women's physique.
Okay.
And then once I saw women's physique, I was like,
that's it.
Fuck figure. I'm skipping right over. I'm skipping right over that shit. I'm like, I know I want to do women's physique. And so I ended up taking a very, very long off season. I think it was over a year. It was about, I think it was like 18 months where like purely 18 months of growing. And then I went into a contest prep. And then that's when I made the transition from bikini to women's physique. I put on about, I want to say it was like about probably like 15 pounds of muscle in that time frame, which was massive. But I like, at the time I was in construction. I was kind of going from my construction career to my like personal training and coaching career. And so I had been laid off for a lot of that time. So I really I was in this really awesome spot where I had this extended off season to grow into women's physique. And I got to spend all of my fucking time bodybuilding. All I did every single day in my life was bodybuilding. So it was like, when people see that transformation from bikini to women's physique, people are like, what the fuck? Right, but I think what a lot of people don't understand is in that time, I really wasn't working that much. I was doing like odd jobs because I was laid off from it was seasonal construction work that I was doing at the time. So it's like, I had the opportunity to really that was all I was doing. I don't have kids. I wasn't married at the time. So my life was bodybuilding. And I do have to say there's something to be said for any kind of personal transformation, whether it's body, whether it's mind, whether it's soul. If that's all you are doing, if you have 24 hours a day to make that transformation happen, you can do absolutely amazing things.
Yeah, I agree.
So I mean, I made a huge transformation and that was the year 2012 was my first year competing in women's physique. I won the New England's, which is like the biggest, amateur show that you can do. That's not a pro qualifier in the New England area. So I did that and I won the overall. And I remember one of my favorite bodybuilding memories. So it was my first show doing women's physique. 2 weeks later was nationals. Okay. And I had already signed up for nationals, even though I didn't qualify yet, which was very scary. But I had both John Meadows was doing my training. Shelby Starnes was doing my diet. Both of them were like, you have to do nationals, sign up. You're going to qualify. So the very first time I step on stage at the New England's, first time doing women's physique, I felt like I was home. I knew it was the division for me. I got on that stage and it was just like, I belong here. And then I look at the judges and Jose Raymond is front and center and he's looking at me and his jaw is and he's going like this. And he is just in awe of how good I look. And so to me, that is one of I can still remember the feeling of how good that felt. Because I knew who Jose Raymond was. He was back then he was doing Olympias. And,
he was the man. I know. I've had him on.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially I'm from the New England area. So he was a really big deal in the New England area. And so to have someone like that have that reaction to me on stage, it was I was totally geeking out. And then I go backstage and I get a text from my coach, Shelby, and he's like, Jose Raymond said you're getting your pro card in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God. It was it was one of those really awesome moments for me in bodybuilding that I can still look back and be like, wow, that was I'm so happy I got to experience that. And then it was whirlwind because 2 weeks later, I got my pro card at nationals. 6 months later, I did my pro debut. I won my pro debut. And then 12 weeks after that, I was at my first Olympia. So
that's fantastic. So you crushed it your first year.
Very whirlwind.
Yeah. You could. So it's more like the Nick Walker story or the
not common. Not common.
Andrew Jack story. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Let me ask you a few questions because you went over a lot. So
I know that was a lot.
That's all right. When you say you were an alcoholic, how bad was it?
Yeah. I was drinking a handle of Captain with my partner every night.
Your partner at work, you mean?
The person that I was in a relationship with at the time.
Okay. And that was
so we were both very bad alcoholics. So that was our like nightly routine. And yeah.
Every night, you mean 7 days a week at a bar or home or either or?
Either or. You know, I also, like at that time, I was like a huge partier. So there was a bar crawl every single night. So yeah, it was a very, I mean, I guess it was fun at sometimes, but it was not a good time in my life. And at that time, I also like owned my own construction company. And I think that was a big part of it too, was like, I was really good at what I did. I was very successful. I made a lot of money, but I was not happy with what I was doing every day. Mm-hmm. I would wake up and I was like, oh God, I gotta fucking go to work. You know, like that dread of like, ugh, where like, I love what I do now. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, I'm fucking blessed. I can't wait to see what my clients got for me today. I can't wait to see how they're doing. So it's definitely like, you know, entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but I will say that if you are going to be an entrepreneur, like make sure it's the thing that you fucking love to do, because it's a lot of work. And even like coaching now, you know, like I put a lot of hours into it. I'm, you know, very dedicated to my career and my clients. So it's a lot of work, but now it's different. Like I enjoy that and it doesn't feel like work anymore. So I'm very blessed to have been able to turn my whole life around.
When you quit drinking, was it like AA or you just one day went, that's it, I'm done?
It wasn't AA. I did do some like outsource like therapy and but you know, really I didn't do like an intensive program. No, it was more like just like, you know, going to see an outpatient like therapy.
Mm-hmm. So are you able to drink casually or you have not had a sip of alcohol in years?
So for the first, I would say it was for the first like 5 or 6 years, I was like not around alcohol. I wouldn't go to bars. I wouldn't go out. I would like avoid situations like that. And as the years passed, it was like I was able to go to more things. I was able to be around it more, and it like didn't bother me. And now I'm at the point where I can have a drink on holidays. I can have like, you know, I can really drink whenever I want. I honestly now, when I think of drinking alcohol, it just is something it doesn't make me feel the way I want to feel. I don't feel good doing it. So I'm not even at that point anymore in my life where I even feel tempted, or that if I had some, I wouldn't be able to stop. So now it's like I can have a glass of wine at dinner. Even if I order a glass of wine at dinner, I usually don't even finish it though. Yeah. Because I'm also at the point in my life where I like to feel good and I only like to do the things that make me feel good. And if I drink, even if I have one drink, I feel like crap for 2 days. So, and I think some of that, like I have Lyme disease now, so I'm also like a lot more sensitive to things like alcohol. So I think that's probably why I feel so shitty, you know, having one drink. So, I'm very glad that I was able to overcome that. I actually think like like quitting smoking was almost like just as hard as the quitting the drinking. And doing those at the same, like, but I felt like I had to do them both at the same time. Because they're kind of like formed habits together, right? Mm-hmm. And so you've kind of like got to break those things at the same time.
So your story, I mean the addiction story, is not uncommon in bodybuilding.
No, not at all.
So from what I understand, I mean, I've interviewed. I don't know if you saw. I interviewed Nate Spear, who has a very similar story, actually a lot worse. I interviewed Danny Broadhurst, who is going for his pro card. Again, his story is a lot worse. And Nicole Sullivan, who's also an IFBB pro figure girl. You know,
a lot of people come from addiction.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can say that, you know, like, I think with myself, a lot of us say like bodybuilding saved my life, you know?
Yeah. That's where I was headed. It seems like the structure of bodybuilding and going from a terrible addiction to, I'll say, a good addiction.
Right. It is an addiction. You're right.
But it's a good addiction. You're not breaking into somebody's house, you know, stealing.
So, and I think that's where we get into this like very kind of like, you know, we kind of like weird territory because it can become a bad addiction. And what I see with women is the women who become addicted to either the stage look or they become addicted to the anabolics, the drugs.
We're going to get there. 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 When you say you were in construction, you had your own construction company. What kind of construction was it?
So I did mostly marine construction, roads, bridges, dams, jetties, seawalls.
Okay. And you were the actual contractor?
Yeah, so I actually, like, my family owned a marine construction.
Okay.
So I grew up on construction sites. I know how to run like loaders and excavators, and like I used to run all the heavy equipment. I did everything the guys did. So I knew how to do I used to like rebuild all the engines and all the excavators every winter. So yeah, I was, just one of the guys. And you did. So that's kind of. Yeah, why like bikini was like not for me at all.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I mean, listen, all respect, bikini, but to me, bikini girls is how can I say this? They took a spring break event and made it legit.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like part of me is like, yes, I feel some kind of way about some like bikini girls and like some of that like very stereotypical stuff. But at the same time, I was a bikini girl. I started in bikini and look what I became. I became a 3-time Olympian. I was one of the best in the world at women's physique. So, everyone has to start somewhere in this sport. A lot of women start in bikini. So it's like, I think we should have less of that negative connotation to bikini, because we may be like, people having that negative kind of view of bikini. And maybe if a bikini girl is like, wow, like these bodybuilders are just kind of like assholes to us, us girls. And that might turn a girl off that might one day be a future women's physique Olympian, right? Like you don't know.
No, absolutely. It's very true. Yeah. No, I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. It's very true. I mean, there are a lot of women that work very hard and really take the bikini and wellness, I'll put them together, very serious. When you're at the NPC level, I guess, when you get to the national level, it's probably more competitive, more serious. At the NPC level, it seems to me that it's more about, I want to get on stage and have some attention, because I've been to so many NPC shows where the bikini girls got their ass kicked, like third call out, fourth call out, and they're backstage and they are happy as a pig in shit. And I'm like, you just got your ass handed to you. How are you? Well, I came in 5th place one time. I wanted to kill somebody. I literally couldn't think straight.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing to kind of like consider with like the bikini girl, like, well, with any division in this sport, is you've got a broad range of why people do this sport. You've got people who are in this sport because they want to be competitive athletes. So when I started bodybuilding, I knew I wanted to be an Olympian. Not only did I know I wanted to be a pro, I knew I was going to be a good fucking Olympian. That was my goal. So there's people like me who are like, they find that ultra competitive part of themselves and they like go all in. And like, you've got some people like that, like yourself, you got 5th place and you're fucking going to kill someone. And then you've got the people in bodybuilding who they're hobbyists. They're doing this because they're, it's like a bucket list thing I started doing jujitsu earlier this year. And, this is not something that's just for bodybuilding. We see, like, I saw that in my jujitsu school too, where, it's kind of hard in the classes because you've got some classes where it's like a 50-50 mix, where it's like 50 is competition, 50 is like just hobbyists, and that works out good. But then you've got some classes where, it's mostly all competitive people. Then you've got 1 or 2 hobbyists and they're like getting their fucking ass whooped. So, Same thing. Like, I don't think that's special to bodybuilding. And I think that's just something that we need to, especially at a local level. At a local level, you just kind of have to have the expectation that you're going to see some hobbyists today.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, the one thing that I hate seeing is when you see the hobbyists who got second place out of 2. Now they're nationally qualified. And now that hobbyist is going to nationals and wasting everyone's time.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I don't like to see. Yeah. Now, the people like that, like, want to do it for the bucket list and think, let them have their fun. Like, what is it hurting, right? Like, we got to spend a little bit of time watching them on stage, whatever. That probably made their fucking year, right? They're probably so proud of themselves, right? But I think when we get to the level where we're competing for pro cards, when, they're like, these bigger shows that are bigger events, do we really want to waste everyone's time by having somebody who
I agree.
Clearly has no business and it's like, what is that person doing? Like, they're wasting their money, they're wasting their time. Like, you don't belong there yet.
No, I agree.
I'm there with
totally.
you on that one.
No, I agree totally. I respect the people at the national level because I know they're competitive and they want to win and they're putting everything into it. Totally get it. The people at the entry level, at the NPC level, I mean, it's like, how much attention do you really want? You got Instagram where you're posting all your half naked pictures on. You're walking around the gym in your tights where all the guys are looking at you. And now you want to go on stage and have somebody hand you flowers. It's like, okay, how much, can
and I think that's like, it's an interest. Well, I think it's made a very interesting dynamic in bodybuilding, the social media. I think social media has really changed. I think it's still changing bodybuilding because you're seeing, especially as this year starts to kind of evolve, it's starting to change a little bit since like the midway into the year with the pro shows. But even on the amateur level, you're seeing less and less people show up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're seeing less and less people show up in particular categories too. You're seeing less and less people show up in women's figure. You're seeing no women show up for women's bodybuilding. You're seeing less and less guys show up for men's bodybuilding. Because most of the guys are either doing men's physique or men's classic physique, and most of the women now you want to do wellness, bikini. That's about it. Oh, and here is Michelle. This is Michelle Frankel. Let's see.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi.
So this is my friend Michelle Frankel, who's an IFBB Pro Figure girl, and she's the one who told me all about you to get you on.
Awesome.
So
dude, go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I owe it all to her because she was the one that told me you are a wealth of knowledge and you know a ton of about the science behind anabolics and women and so on and so forth, and you are free to speak about it. And that's basically why I invited her back, because we were talking about it a little bit when I interviewed her. What was it, last week or the week before, something like that?
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
So go ahead, Michelle. You could say.
Yeah. So I've been following your content for just over 10 years now. An old client of mine that I used to personal train, I'll keep his privacy, to the side, but we're good friends with Jaime Pinder. Do you know her? And at the time, I didn't know, I was very new to the sport, and I found you. I was like, oh, she's awesome, and then, the years went by and I saw how transparent you were with the PED use in the sport. And, as I know how much the sport has evolved in the last 10 years, even.
Oh, yes.
And, yeah, big time. And I follow your content on YouTube and I love how you speak. I love that you are all about just providing the education for people to make an informative decision on their own. And when I was talking to him, I was like, you need to get Jaime on here because she knows her stuff, first of all, but she's transparent and she's pro knowledge. So, and I'm all about that. And I admire, what you've done and what you've provided for other women out in the industry. You've helped a lot of people.
Thank you. It was really starting that YouTube channel was one of the scariest things I've ever done, because a lot of it is I am putting it all out there. Like everyone knows about my sex life. Everyone knows about like all my sides. Everyone is like, and it's like, it's funny because to me, when I'm making the videos, like I know, like I think that I'm just like talking to my girlfriends, like when I'm making the videos, right? And so like the reality of like when people start like DMing me about like, you know, certain things that I say on certain episodes, I'm like, shit, like, yeah, everyone fucking knows about everything. But for me, it was like, okay, I can't let my fear hold me back from what I know so many women really need to hear. And I really wanted it to be like, I wanted it to be not only kind of like the science and all of that, because I feel like there's a lot that women are missing, the information of how is the rest of the world going to treat you when you live in a virilized body? What is that really like? Because I know for myself, when I got into bodybuilding, like, yeah, you saw like, okay, yeah, the side effects are like you hair loss and your voice changes and your clit changes. But there was no women talking about like, okay, like, what about those fucking bitches at the grocery store that always call you a man? Yeah. Like, what about the person that you pick up the phone call? Like, they know you're a woman, they still call you fucking sir. Yeah. You know, and it's like talking about those things that, and even like the biggest red flag that like I've noticed that women in this sport don't want to say, and what I want to be said more is man face. No, when I say man face, all the female bodybuilders hate me now. I'm like the most hated woman in female bodybuilding. But I'm sorry, we need to start talking about the things nobody wants to fucking talk about. Mm-hmm. And I think that the channel and me just like kind of like putting it all out there, like I really hope that more than anything, it just helps women like create more open dialogue.
And it does.
And that's what I want. I want more women like you men. You guys have been talking about this shit for decades. You guys have forums, like in the locker room. Like I remember even when I was at like a bodybuilding gym, I like was a pro. I competed at the Olympia. There were other female pros around me in my life at that gym. And still we were not talking about anabolics with each other. Mm-hmm. We weren't talking about the reality of it. So, you know, more than anything, I hope that this really opens up the dialogue for just like women in this sport in general.
Yeah, that's why I have had both of you on, because I think it's important that we talk about it, because I mean, let's face it, as Michelle said before, the divisions have progressed tremendously. I mean, the figure girls now look like the physique girls from 10 years ago. And the physique girls look like bodybuilding girls, and the bodybuilding girls are just like insane. But,
well, they're finally, I will say the bodybuilding girls, they're finally showing up in shape, because in the beginning of this year, I was very disappointed. And this is like the video that like made every female bodybuilder hate me. Because I questioned whether, like, here's the thing. They fought hard to get female bodybuilding back. Yes. In the first 6 months of this year, what did they gave us? They gave us fucking shit. These women showed up looking like garbage. They looked like amateurs. They didn't show up in shape. And it's like, why are we bringing back a division that you're making female bodybuilding look fucking bad? Like, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see it on a professional level, out of shape competitors.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Now, and you hit the nail on the head with the guys. I am of the opinion that before men actually compete, they dabble in anabolics. You know, they're in the gym. And guys are talking, and they go online and they read the articles. And when I was a kid, it was what was it, the book that everybody passed around, the anabolic something review guide or some shit like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it was the guy who
I think Randy might actually have that book.
You still have it? I forgot the name of it. But
I know my ex-husband had a copy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and where women, and definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they realize what they're getting into when they decide to compete. Yeah. So, I think that it goes from, I want to compete, I want to get on stage, I want to get in shape, and then there's a very slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And you had, well, you know what? I'll bring it up. I don't care. You had mentioned two of your trainers before, Jaime.
Yes,
and one of them was very, very, very highly respected in the sport as John Meadows. Yeah. And the other one, not so much.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in that, like, you know, what happened with Shelby last year, you know, it was, you know, that was tough for me. That was very emotionally very difficult for me because, you know, I had worked with Shelby for 5 years and he was the one that got me my pro card. He was the one that got me to my first Olympia. And more than anything, Shelby was a mentor to me and he really helped turn me into the person that I am today. A lot of his wisdom was way beyond just the diet and the training and all of that. And with that being said, for me to see what was going on with his athletes and what I was seeing, it was very difficult for me because I had this image and this idea of who this man is. And it's not correlating with like what I'm actually seeing and what I was experiencing. Cause I, you know, you guys know that Steph Fletcher was a big part of everything that was happening at that time. And Steph and I were friends when Steph was using Shelby as a coach. And I actually had seen that protocol, like the diuretic protocol that Steph was talking about, because she was sending me everything that Shelby was doing with her, just as a second set of eyes. And when I saw that diuretic protocol, the very first thing I said to her was, please don't die. I was like, and I was going to be with her at that show. And I said, listen, like, you really like need to tell me if you don't feel good, because we need to bring you to the fucking hospital, like ASAP. So, you know, it was interesting because I had at that time, like that had happened and I didn't talk to Shelby about it. But it definitely made me kind of like lose respect for him, because when I worked with him, we did a lot of stupid things. And I'm sure that I was a part of like a guinea pig at some point for him as, you know, most, like I was his first Olympian. Right. So, you know, I'm sure that a lot of what I did was like a little bit of experimentation on his part, which happens with coaches. But when I looked back on my, like what happened with me and Shelby, because I made a video on my Instagram about it. And although at the end of my journey working with Shelby, like he did mess up my metabolism and I was pretty fucked up after. But I look back on my emails and not once did I communicate to him how I was feeling. Not once did I say my digestion was fucked up. Not everything that was happening that should have been red flags for a coach to be like, no, we got to pull back. We got to do something different. I wasn't letting him in on any of that. So I can't blame Shelby for my metabolism being fucked up, for all the, like I had a lot of health complications after working with him. But that's not his fault. He didn't know. I mean, a little bit his fault because like he gave me protocols that fucked me up, but it's also the client and the athlete's responsibility that if you don't feel good, if you are not comfortable with the drugs you're using, if you don't know why you're using them, you need to fucking use your voice. You need to use your voice. You need to be your own advocate. You are the only one that is going to be your own advocate. So if your coach doesn't know that that you don't feel good, if you feel fucked up, you're digestive, they can't help you. Right. And one thing that I will say about when I worked with Shelby was there was a point, because I made sure that before I made this video, I had all communication that I had with him still. Like I had everything saved. So I look back and there was a time when I was very uncomfortable with how many drugs he wanted me to use. And I looked at the email. I said, I'm not going to take X, Y, and Z. I'm going to lower these doses. And you know what he said? I have no problem with that. Do what you're comfortable with. Like I'm totally like, he was fine about it. He didn't push me. He didn't try and say, oh, you're not going to look as good, or you're not going to you're not going to make it. No, he was like, all right, I respect that. But like, that's good. So, you know, I think that everything that happened with Shelby, the women who came out and spoke about the bad protocols from all the coaches, do I think all of that it's important for women to have that knowledge? Yes. I think we need to share our experiences with coaches, whether that's good or bad, with each other, so that we know what kind of coaching experience we're going to like get into. Right. I think that is all valuable information. I don't necessarily agree with the way that Steph Fletcher went about things when all of that was going on. I don't think that this should be a witch hunt for any specific coach. I think what we need to do is educate women, so that way, no matter what coach they work with, no matter what protocol is put in front of them, they go, this is for me. This is not for me.
Yes.
I'm comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with this. It's not about like going out and trying to ruin some coach's business or trying to ruin someone's reputation. That's bad juju. That's bad karma. That's not how you do things in this world. Like, you know, let people be what they're going to be. Give the women the knowledge so they can make the choices for themselves. That way they can work with whatever the coach they want. You know, they can work with whoever, and within that coaching experience, they can have the advocacy for themselves to say, hey, coach, I'm not okay with this, but let's talk about X, Y, and Z, or can you explain to me why this? So, you know, I think there was like a lot that happened last year in terms of all of that. And I think a lot of it was good because a lot of it like opened women's eyes to like, okay, what the fuck is really going on? I didn't know this wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm happy it all happened. I just wish that things happened a little bit in a more respectful way to like all the people in this industry. I just think like there's a good way and like a better way to do things, right? So it's like, I think that the information that the women were sharing about like, oh, you know, so-and-so gave me this crazy cycle for bikini and like, yeah, I think that shit needs to be out there, right? But do I think like, I just think there's like better ways to do that, right?
I think there are too. And I think, you know, social media has obviously a massive, you know, infiltration on all of that, you know,
right.
But I love what you said. And this is what we were talking about last time I was on here with John was the communication on both ends, on the athlete's end. Like if you're feeling a certain kind of way, let your coach know what's going on. If you're having health issues, if you have concerns, if you want to know, you know, okay, I'm going to take this, but what does this do? What are the effects of it? Are things irreversible, you know, and just having that knowledge. And that's why I love what you put out there, because you put out a lot of really good education that these women need, that it's very hard to find from somebody who really knows what they're talking about, you know?
And I think that's like the most dangerous thing is like now, you know, we've got these coaches now, and this is like what I'm coming across with women a lot. Well, like, cause you know, I get on a lot of like prospect calls with women. I also like, you know, I read a lot of the comments on like my YouTube stuff. Clearly those are women that are interested in this type of topic. But what I'm starting to see with a lot of women is they go to their coaches and they say, okay, I think I'm ready for anabolics and I think I want to try Anavar. I think I want to try this. And they go, okay, go do your research and come back to me and let me know what you decide. How that's not helpful because they're like, so at one point she's gotten kicked off of YouTube since, but there was this one girl, Protein 305, who she was on YouTube, but she was giving women fucking terrible advice, like mega doses of EQ, telling
like
women that if their estrogen was over 40, that they needed to take a Arimidex and Aromacin to like completely annihilate their fucking estrogen. I mean, this things this woman was telling like women to do, I was like, oh my God, she is going to really fuck women up big time. So like, here's the thing. If I'm someone's coach and I say, oh, go do your own research, they find her. They're going to have a very different idea of and then they find my channel. Well, who the fuck are you going to listen to? Right? So
it's like a cesspool of information. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. And not everybody knows how to navigate through that.
When I talk to young guys in the gym, I tell them my rule of thumb is don't follow social media icons. Follow people that have actually accomplished something. I can't tell you how many people have no idea who Charles Glass is. You know, or have no idea who John Meadows is, or was rather, or, you know, and it's like, but they follow, you know, Dr. Tony Hughes, or they follow some other asshole. But here's another thing that I want to get to, and then we'll actually get to the intricacies of the anabolics with women. Generally speaking, not everyone, obviously, Jaime and Michelle are exceptions to the rule. Generally speaking, men are more disagreeable. So what I mean by that is like, if I wanted to compete and I'm talking to a coach and he says, I want you to do ABC. And I go, no, I'm not comfortable doing that. Right. And we've seen it. We've seen guys fire their coaches in seconds, right? Because they'll just pick up another one. I mean, I don't know how many coaches Big Ramy has been through. We've seen William Bonac just totally destroy. I forgot the guy's name, but his old coach. I mean, just annihilated. And where women, generally speaking, their a female nature is more agreeable. It's much
That's
more.
That's why Shelby says he coaches mostly women.
See, okay, so
and Randy loves working with the women.
yeah, they're definitely more. And Guy Del Corso said the same thing. I said, "Why are you so good with women and not as good with men?" And he said, "Women listen to me." So,
Yeah.
so what I mean is, what part of it is that, and what part of it is the obsession of I want to get my pro card and I want to be on that pro stage?
I think
let Michelle answer that, and then we'll go.
Oh,
to you.
sure.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So can you repeat the last part of that question again?
What part is it that women are just generally more agreeable? And what part of it does it become an obsession where I need my pro card and I want to be on that pro stage?
I think the biggest thing, women, they are agreeable. Obviously I'm very big on communication with my clients. Like I'm very big on transparency. I need to know everything. The more you tell me, the more I can help you. And we have a really good trust, both of us, in both ways, right? But you do get people, I could go two different ways with this, that, like you were saying before, they see a certain physique on the Olympia stage and they think it's attainable, like in a year without any PED use, with this and that. And it's like these unrealistic expectations they have for themselves, which is tough because I kind of have to like navigate them through that, especially if they're new to the sport. They have to have a foundation in the sport, you know what I mean? And an understanding, but you do get people who are, they want it now. They want it all right now. They're very, very impatient, but they also have zero foundation. They have zero foundation with nutrition and training. So I'm like, all right, we need to like take a step back and start with the basics and build that foundation up and see if you even enjoy this sport in a year, right? So I'm sure Jamie's had people that have done this, and in a year they're like, yeah, it's not for me, or you know what I mean? So I think you have to start there and then have that trust and coast in the right direction.
Okay, Jamie, you can take it from there.
So the very beginning, before women actually start doing the PEDs, it's more likely because they're agreeable. So more likely because before they start the PEDs. Once they start the PEDs, I find that I call it the contest prep blinders.
Yes.
Once they start the PEDs, the contest prep blinders go on. And then all of a sudden, because women, before they start anabolics, most of them have an idea of, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of anabar. I'm going to do this, like some like these ostarine, or like, I'm going to do a little bit of this, but like, I'm not going to go as far as like changing my voice, or I'm not going to do so many drugs that my clit changes, or like they have this idea in their head of like where their stop is, right? Yep. Like where that point is, that they're not going to go that far. But it's like, once the anabolics get into their system, women, these are hormones. You know where hormones work? In your fucking brain. It changes, the anabolics change the way you actually think. It changes the decisions that you make. So it's the anabolic contest prep blinders that go on, and all of a sudden, the voice that they didn't want to change, the clit that they didn't want to grow, all like the hair they didn't want on their face, I don't care, as long as I get that pro card. The pro card is all that. So then you've got the coach that's the opportunist. You have the opportunist coach who goes, oh, fuck yeah, this girl's got the contest prep blinders on. Let's give her fucking everything.
Right.
And then you get a woman who now she's virilized to a point that she didn't want to before. And she did a local show, okay? She did a local show at a high school auditorium where she did not win. So now she has compromised the things that she didn't want to compromise. She has now lost the show in the high school auditorium where she didn't win that plastic fucking trophy. She gets off stage. She gets off cycle. Now her hormones are completely down-regulated because her coach doesn't know what the fuck to do with a PCT with a woman. And so now she has no fucking hormones afterwards. And she's looking in the mirror at her face that now is more angular, that has hair growing from it, her clit that might be enlarged, that now she's like having to shave. And she's like, what the fuck did I do? That's what's happening. That is what I see most of the time.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So that's what I kind of figured, because the very little that I've experienced with women in contests, that's what I've experienced. You know, it's basically they go from 0 to 100 like that.
Yeah.
No, I just, you know,
or it's the boyfriend. Or it's a boyfriend.
Yeah.
That's like,
oh yes, that's true too.
Just take a little bit of my, take here.
Yeah,
just
the
take
boyfriend who has no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
And Jaime, like talking about like the amateur level, I have seen people who have taken a lot of PEDs for the amateur level, and the girl who took literally nothing did place better than her.
Right.
And it's just like, well, how is that possible? I'm like, it's possible. You know, you have to understand that there's no guarantee.
Right. You know what's really very interesting is especially like the comments on my channel. I get a lot of comments from him because like my thing is like when I use the years that I use the least amount of anabolics were the years that I placed the best and when I looked the best. When I performed my best, I now have women who have been bodybuilding for 20 years, like literally 20 fucking years. In bodybuilding, female bodybuilding. So these women have run fucking cycles like fucking shit, right? They've run a lot of shit. They're with me now and they've run the least amount of gear they've ever run in their entire careers. They look the best, they're placing their best, they feel their best. And when I say on my channel, less is more. You don't need all these drugs. These high-level pros that you see, like you see the high-level pros that actually keep on placing year after year. Yes. You think that they are blasting a bunch of gear? No, they fucking disappear. They don't last that long. And so women are like, oh, you're not saying what the pros really do. Yeah. You're not really telling the truth. And it's like, no, y'all are still just so stupid. You're blasting all this fucking gear for no reason at all. Yeah. So it's like, I think a lot of like the pushback I get with comments, it's like women don't like when I tell them the things that they don't like, when I tell them what they don't want to hear. Like they want me to say, oh, the way that I got to the Olympia was just blasting a bunch of gear. And that's the way that I got there. I'm sorry, guys. That's just that. Like, and the truth is like those high level pros that you see winning show after show after show, the ones that are in it for a long time, they're genetically fucking blessed. When I take 10 milligrams of Anavar, I look fucking amazing. My physique just fucking, I just sprinkle in a little bit of anabolic because my body, like I'm a super responder. I just sprinkle in some GH, some Anavar, and bam, I look fucking awesome. I did some photo shoots and stuff recently, literally 4 weeks of 20 milligrams of Anavar, and I looked like I was going to do a show. People were like, are you competing? Like, what are you doing? And I think like there's this huge misconception that like the higher level that you get on the pro stage, it's like more and more drugs. And it's like, no, it's, look at how long, so especially like some of these women's physique competitors who are at the top of the level, how long have they been fucking doing this? Exactly. They didn't just show up, right? Exactly. They've been doing this for a long time. You see the female bodybuilders who are doing awesome.
They're all over 40.
Dude, they have been doing this.
All over 40.
Well,
they've been doing this for a long fucking time.
I was talking to a client the other day and she showed me a picture of a professional and she's like, I want to look like that. Like, can I get there by next year? And I was like, no. I go, she's been doing this for 15 years. I go, you started last year.
Right.
So, you have to be so honest with them. And then it like breaks their heart. I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's the truth,
Yeah. And I think like one thing is like women need to understand you can get to the professional level in bodybuilding without completely ruining your femininity. It's going to take some time. You're going to need fucking patience.
And no one has
There's patience. Only so much muscle tissue you can put on in a fucking year, And it's like, I think this is another problem with the social media thing is like, people see like the transformation photo, right? And they're like, oh, like they think that person just like woke up and like you just got that way in a year. It's like, there may be those outliers that have those transformations. Sure. Like my transformation from bikini to women's physique, very outlier, not normal. That is the exception. That is not the rule. And when people on social media, they like pick out the exception and they're like, oh, because this one exception, this genetically elite person that dedicates every moment, they have nothing else going on in their life but this thing. Because that one outlier, I should be able to do that. And like everyone, that's how everyone should be. It's just, social media, I think, has done something very dangerous to this sport.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
And I think there's that intersection of, okay, they want this immediate result. And now back in like the 90s, the late 80s, how did women get gear? It was hard.
Yeah.
You had to fucking know someone.
Someone in the gym locker room.
That was it.
Even in the beginning of my career in the early 2000, like, 2008, 2010, it was hard for me to get gear. It was hard for me to find it. Now you go into Google, you type in Anavar, the availability of the drugs. So you have this perfect storm where you have social media where people think, oh, I'm going to get these immediate results. I'm going to just like that. And then you have the availability of drugs. And this is one of my big points with should women's bodybuilding actually be something that we aspire to? What do we really want young women to do? Because in the women who come from the era of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they have patience, right? They know a different kind of bodybuilding world. You have the much younger generation now where they step into the gym and they have already ordered their entire fucking first cycle of anabolics the very first day that they stepped into the gym because they saw this female bodybuilder that, they want to aspire to, they can get the drugs. And these female bodybuilders are saying, oh yeah, just fucking do all the drugs, just whatever, viralize. It's wonderful. It's the greatest thing ever. Like, I'm so happy. Like, they're not telling these young women the truth. Like, I don't like that. You need to be transparent. And I think it's just very dangerous what's going on now because it's so easy to get the drugs. And then you have this influence of social media and it's creating this fucking shitstorm of women who have such bad hormonal dysfunction. Especially like after shows, you have these women who they end up in hormonal dysfunction after a show. And then what do? Their way to resolve that. Oh, I'm just going to go back on drugs. Yeah. And so you end up with these women who they're in this cycle of drug abuse. They're abusing anabolics.
I saw it, I know long, this happened years ago. I no longer work with this girl because just shit, she was just a toxic human. But she didn't want to train the way she was supposed to train. She was not following her nutrition protocol. And she goes to me, I want to get Anavar. I go, you want to look up how to get this gear to get any sort of anabolics, but you can't follow a nutrition plan. Yeah. You go to the gym and you're talking to some guy that you're just hooking up with and you're not actually working out. I'm like, absolutely not. And I mean, short, we were done after that. I'm like, no, that's not how this works.
Right. Like the drugs are supplemental to an already good training diet. Like it's not going to do it for you. And that's why it's interesting because you know how when the whole thing with Steph was going on and people were putting up the cycles of like the crazy bikini like girl cycle that had like fucking Tren and testosterone. And
that's what I was telling John about last week. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Here's a funny thing. You look at pictures of those girls and it doesn't even look like they fucking work out. And it's like, but you're on fucking twice as much gear as I'm on, but and you look like a fucking waif.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you know why? Because the anabolics are not going to do the fucking work for you. These girls don't work out. They fucking eat like 100 calories a day. Like these bikini girls that are on Tren and Tats and everything else. They're not eating. They're not training hard. And that's why it's like, yeah, you can blast. Look at how many fucking anabolics they're using and they still look like fucking garbage. It's not the drugs that do it. You need to have the foundation first. Correct. They are only going to make it. It's only going to make it so that you can work fucking harder.
Exactly.
And I think that's the difference in the generations where the younger generation, the older generation of female bodybuilders, female competitors, it's, okay, what drugs can I take so I can fucking work harder so I can fucking beat everyone, right?
And it's very rare that you
make me better, right?
And it's very rare that you find a woman who wants to work harder. They're like, I want to do this because I want to work harder. That's rare. They want to work less.
Now it's the opposite now, though. Now all the younger girls say, what is the most amount of drugs that I can do that is going to give me and like, they don't even, the training and the, like, that's not even like, they're not even thinking about that. Yep. They're just like, give me the most drugs so I can get the results that I can get. And it's like, so they can do the least amount of work. And it's like, you don't even love bodybuilding. Like you don't even love bodybuilding. You don't even know what bodybuilding is, because bodybuilding is the passion for the work. It's the passion for that pursuit of getting to the end. If you're just trying to use the drugs to do it, like, what are y'all doing? Like, this is not bodybuilding. This is fucking just like, let's like blow a bunch of drugs into our body and see what happens. Yeah. I don't know what it is. Right.
Yep.
Jaime, if you can, and Michelle too, if we could speak about the short-term side effects and long-term side effects of abusing anabolics, and what girls should really stay away from when they want to compete, and what is acceptable. So I don't care who wants to take it. I really don't care.
Yeah. I mean, Jaime will try to say, first of all, it depends on what you're taking, right? How much you're taking. And that you're seeing some interesting PED use in the bikini divisions, which was pretty shocking over the last few years. When you'd hear this girl's taking Clen and whatnot, I'd be like, why?
Girls taking Clen in bikini?
In bikini.
Oh, in bikini. Oh, in bikini. So, I mean, when it comes to like the short-term side effects, I mean, some of the short-term side effects are going to be either the things that happen while you're on cycle that can when you come off cycle, they might dissipate, or you might be able to correct. So some of that is like internal organ, where it's kidney, it's liver. Some of that, if you are taking some kind of like preventative health supplements on cycle and then post cycle, some of those things can actually, be repaired afterwards. So those are some of the temporary. Now, but those temporary, if you are abusing anabolics for long periods of time or taking a lot of anabolics, then those temporary things can become very permanent and very deadly consequences with liver and kidney. So we see what happened with Boston Lloyd, where he ended up, I'm pretty sure, I don't know what the end autopsy result said, but I know it was mostly kidney.
It was kidney, but then he had some kind of heart issue.
Okay.
But he had bad kidney function, but he also had some kind of heart issue. What specific side effects are we talking about that would be short term and that could last into a permanent?
So like I said, even like the internal organs. So, if you've got, if you start taking anabolics, and if for the short term, you do like a 12-week cycle of Anavar, you're going to get your blood work and your liver enzymes are going to be elevated. So your liver is going to be slowed down a little bit. It's going to be doing a little bit of work because you're taking an oral. So that's short term. And then you come off, and then you can take some supplements and you're probably going to be okay. But long term, you can permanently damage your liver, and you can have serious, that you actually need to get like a liver transplant, liver disease. You can get liver cancer. I know for myself, there was one time where I actually had like a liver cancer scare, and I was like, oh, fuck, that's not fun. So with kidney dysfunction, kidney failure, if you're not careful, if you're taking those anabolics for too long, for extended periods of time, or you're just taking like too high of doses. Now, we've also got like heart complications, blood lipids. So it's going to elevate those blood lipids as well. Again, those things, if you're on cycle, it's going to affect you. You come off cycle, a lot of times that's going to dissipate as long as you're taking care of yourself in between cycles. This is why I say get blood work.
Yes.
Before and after all of your cycles. So you know where things are at. If you know you're healthy enough to actually start, because if you are about to start a cycle, you get your blood work and your cholesterol is already through the roof, or your liver enzymes are already fucked up, y'all got to fix that first. Because when you get on that cycle, it is only going to make things worse. We want to make sure you're in a good spot before you even start. And then in terms of like virilization side effects for women, these are some of the ones that women really are the most concerned about, and these are things that men don't have to worry about, because it's only going to make them more manly, right? So virilization is just all the side effects that women would get that like give them those male characteristics. So the hair on the face, the losing the hair from your head, even like hair on, like I get hair on my breasts. Body hair, more body hair everywhere, darker body hair, a lowering of a voice. So like my voice did not used to sound like this. It is much lower than it was before. And then clitoral enlargement, clitoral sensitivity. And that can be something that when you are on cycle, you get a little bit more sensitive. Maybe it's just a little bit more engorged. And then when you come off cycle, things might go back to absolute normal, or you might not go back to normal, and it may permanently be changed forever. And really, when it comes to the virilization side effects, the most important thing is not which anabolic is going to, because all of them have the ability to give you all of these side effects. There is not one anabolic that will not have the possibility of changing your clip, changing your voice, changing your hair, changing your face, and the structure of your face. The more androgens that you have, the more that you are going to influence the structure of your face as well. The less estrogen you have in your body. So if you are not only blasting anabolics, but you're also completely annihilating your estrogen, that estrogen is keeping your face nice and supple. It's what's making that, those 20-year-olds with that dewy, soft skin. It's because they've got all that fucking estrogen, man. You know why post-menopausal women, their face looks like leather? Well, it's because they don't have any estrogen. So if you are a woman who is concerned with the femininity, that feminine look on your face, that femininity is from that softness of you not having a lot of androgens in your body for long periods of time, and you having that nice balance of estrogen. So, not only do we need to take into consideration the PEDs in terms of anabolics and what they're going to do for virilization, but all right, if you're also completely annihilating your estrogen, that's going to have an effect on those things too. And so when it comes to the virilization, this is the stickiest part for women, because every woman is going to respond very differently. I have had clients that they take 10 milligrams of Anavar and their voice immediately drops. Their hair is falling out in sheets. They're breaking out, and it's legit Anavar. They are just very they can't be on it. And then I have someone like myself where I can take 20 milligrams of it. When I only had done 20 milligrams of Anavar, I had a little bit of clitoral sensitivity. My hair, I actually had hair shedding for 2 weeks, and then it kind of evened out. And then when it came off, I had hair shedding for another 2. But that was it. No other side effects. My voice hadn't changed at that point. I no really extra body hair at all at that point. So women are so very different when it comes to their responses to the anabolics. And I think that's a really important reason. One of the things that I say with women is, wherever you're going to start with your anabolic doses, it always start with the lowest possible dose. Even if you have used it before, even if you have had the same supplier, start with the lowest possible dose and work your way up. Because our bodies are always constantly changing. Our hormone levels are always constantly changing. You want to, if you are really concerned about preserving your femininity, have patience, slowly work your way up on these things. I even do that with my anabolics now. If I'm ever going to I actually don't really use I usually stay at the lowest dose now, because I'm not doing shows. I do photo shoots and stuff like that, but there's no reason for me to really move up on the dose. I'm usually taking the lowest dose for most things. So, and I think that's one way that women can ensure that, are you really taking what you think you're taking? Because I think one of the biggest things that we see with women is not even so much even the abuse or that they're taking it for too long, but that it's not even what they think that it is, right?
That's happening more and more often.
Yes.
Well, so I heard in the beginning of the year, I don't know how true it is now. So I have some friends that run underground labs, and they were saying that it was a lot harder to get the raw materials for Anavar at one point. Earlier in the year. And that's why you saw a lot of people, they couldn't get any Anavar. For the longest time.
I think a lot of people were getting Winstraw instead.
Yeah.
I think that was a common one, and it was cheaper to get also. So people didn't know that they were taking Winstraw when they thought they were taking Anavar.
Yeah.
Things
and
that were happening.
They replaced it with D-Bol or something less expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Something cheaper.
Primobolan is propionate usually. A lot of times that happens.
Yep.
The good thing is there are test kits that you can buy.
There are test kits. Yes.
Yeah. Dave Palumbo sells one on his
Roidtest.com.
Roidtest.com. Yep.
And I tell everybody who actually wants to dabble in it to buy that.
Oh, I tell all my females, like,
100%.
test your shit, even if it's from a supplier that you think, like, you think you know that you've been getting him from him forever, but you don't know where he got it. You don't know where
he might not
his
even
guy
know.
got
That's
his
right.
raws.
Exactly.
Like,
That's right.
you don't fucking know.
That's right. He doesn't even. Now, Michelle, what about, do women come across any reproductive problems if they abuse anabolics?
That's been the biggest concern amongst the women that we work with is what happens with some of the anabolics with women is sometimes it exposes conditions that they didn't even know that they had. Or if they were already irregular, I'm like, you might not get your period. Like, so I was saying last time, just with diet and exercise alone, some women lose their period. That's nothing that has ever happened to me. I was really lucky with that all these years, but it does happen. So I'm like, okay, that's without anabolics. With any sort of PEDs, there is a chance that's going to happen to you as well. So if it's a concern of yours, especially if you're young and you want to have kids one day, it's something to stay aware of. It's something that I recommend that when they get their blood panels and everything done, to get their hormones checked on a fertility standpoint. Because, we work with masters women also, and they're like, I had kids, I don't care what I do, blah, blah, blah. Right. Mm-hmm. But for the youth, for the younger women, I'm like, just check yourself, because I can't predict what's going to happen to you if you use X, Y, and Z. Right.
What do you think, Jaime?
So it's very interesting because I started to try and do a lot of research and find some really good answers on this.
Yeah.
And there aren't any studies, and there aren't going to be any studies because you can't do studies on women who are doing anabolics for fun.
Right.
It's not ethical. But so the closest thing that you can find for studies that look at this type of situation. So when we think about women who use anabolics, what is the situation that we're putting their bodies into? They have elevated androgens for long periods of time, right? So when we're talking about women who are, staying on cycle most of the year round, we can kind of get an idea of what that looks like when we look at trans women who, trans men, when we look at trans men. So women who are transitioned into men who want to have children. So they've been on long-term testosterone therapy. Okay. So that's really that, in women who have PCOS. Those are the two situations that are as similar as we can get to women who are using anabolics for long periods of time. And when we look at the data from women who have PCOS and women who use trans men, I'm sorry, I keep on messing that up. Trans men, we do see, so with the trans men, it's interesting because I do think that those studies are political. Because you have a lot of physicians who say there's a lot of data that isn't being seen, and they're trying to sway it to be one way, to say that the hormone therapy for trans men is okay for them.
Right.
Where a lot of the actual numbers in the studies, it's not good. It fucks you up, and it fucks you up bad. And then for PCOS, women who have PCOS, I think it's the infertility rate is 78 or something like that. So we can't, obviously there's no studies for women who do anabolics, right? But if we can take and say, okay, what are the conditions that we're putting these women in when they're on anabolics, and what kind of studies can we look at? That's what I've looked at. And looking at that, it's not good. It does have a very detriment, especially if you are doing it for long periods of time and you are not coming off. When it comes to the side effects, whether that is your virilization, whether that's your fertility, whether that's your internal organs, what matters is how much you're taking and for how long you're taking it. If you want the least amount of side effects, if you want the most fertility, if you want the most health, take short cycles, take low doses.
Yep.
It's not rocket science.
Right.
It's not fucking rocket science. That's all. Take less, take it for shorter. The longer you're on, the higher your doses, the more you're going to virilize. The more you're going to have fertility issues, the more you're going to have health issues. And that's what it comes down to. It's not if you ladies are taking anabolics year round, you're never letting your natural hormone profile come back. you are going to have major hormone dysfunction. You are going to go and set yourself into premature menopause. I put myself into premature menopause. Trust me, ladies, you don't want to fucking be there. Do you know how much filler I have to put into my face to look like this? People say to me a lot, and I'm very transparent about everything that I do, because people will come to me and they'll say, oh my God, I want to know what cycles you did. And I want to know what you did because you like your face still looks so good. And you still, and it's like, no. Like my face looks this good because there's about 20 grand of fucking work and injectable and fucking Botox in this face. That's why. So it's like,
I love you.
But I feel like women, like they need to know that. Like, yes. I don't want women to have this false idea of like, oh, like I can totally fuck up my hormones. I can put myself into premature menopause. Because trust me, that whole thing that I went through, and that's a really big reason why I talk about this. It was one of the worst and most difficult times in my life. It was fucking brutal. I did not want to be alive. I hated myself. I hated life. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I don't want any woman to ever have to fucking go through that. And ladies, trust me, you don't have to go through that. You can compete at a high level. You can have the result that you want. You just need some fucking patience. Yeah. You just need some patience. Do your blood work in between. Take care of your hormones in between. One of the biggest mistakes I made that led me to premature menopause, that led me to all my hormonal dysfunction, was not taking a break from the gear, not doing my blood work, and not making sure I was getting my period. Like I cannot stress to women, like if you are still at the age where you are getting your period, it is a good thing to get your period. It is a sign of vitality and youth. It will keep you younger longer. Trust me, like I have friends, most of my friends are older, they're in their 50s. And I have some friends that are in their 50s and they still get their fucking period. And you know what? They look so much younger than my clients and my friends that are in their 30s who don't get their fucking period anymore. It's like these hormones, like you want to look young, you want to look feminine, you want to look pretty, you want to look beautiful. You want all of those things. Like estrogen is one of those things that you need in order to like have all of those things. So, when you are completely crushing that and like have all this hormonal dysfunction, it's going to be hard for you to look and feel your best. So ladies, like take your time with this stuff. There's no need to be on gear all year round. Like take care of, if you want to be in this sport for a long time, if you want longevity, fucking take your time, have some patience.
Yeah, I think that's the reoccurring theme of the night is patience. It's something that people do not have, especially these days.
Yeah, no, I agree totally. Now, Jaime, I understand now why Michelle said I have to have you on.
Told you, she's awesome.
The amount of knowledge that you bring and the respect that I have for you now because of your transparency and how honest you are is just it's at an all-time high level. So I am definitely going to ask you to come back. That goes without question. Absolutely. So I want to know, where can people find your information, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, and I will make sure that it's in the description area so that people can just click it and go right to your stuff.
And I will tell women over and over again to watch her YouTube channel. Yeah. It's great.
What is your YouTube channel?
Thank you. So my YouTube is Cats, Clits, and Clen.
All right. Hold on.
Best name.
Is that with 3 C's or 3 K's?
Yes. 3 C's, Cats, Clits, and Clen.
Okay.
So for those of you who like follow me on my Instagram, like I have 3 cats, so that's where the cats came. And then of course, like the Clits, I think that's self-explanatory. Right. But yeah, so it's like, I love the title. It's so perfect. But my YouTube channel, like that's really where people can find the most information. It is definitely geared towards women. It is geared towards women who want to preserve a certain level of femininity. If you are a woman who wants to blast gear, you don't care about your femininity, you don't care about virilization, you don't care if you fucking die tomorrow, my channel is not for you. If any of those things concern you as a woman, then that channel is for you. And I will warn all of you guys that I do my wig, I do my makeup. So some people are like, oh, don't do your makeup when you do it. You don't have to watch. Just listen.
I love it. I'm like, what's she doing?
Now, Michelle, what about you? I know you gave it to me last time, but let's give it to them. Again.
Just Revolutionize Nutrition on Instagram, Revolutionize USA, same thing on Facebook. If you Google us, you'll find a bunch of stuff on Revolutionize Nutrition. And as I said, we're an advocate for Jaime's page. Like, just love.
Thank you so much.
I can't express how much I appreciate what you put out there. Because nobody can find it, and I send my women in your direction if they're looking for that information. Like, you got to check her content out. Like, if you want just honesty from somebody like who's just knowledgeable and has done whatever, like I need you to go see her.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
One day I'll actually meet you in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are both. We're all on the East Coast, so sooner or later we're going to bump into each other. That goes without saying. Okay, so Cats, Clits, and Clen on YouTube. Revolutionize Nutrition for Michelle. Guys, I just want to thank you and much love, much respect always. I'm going to have both of you guys back because it was just a tremendous interview, a tremendous show. And you make my job easy because I just asked Jaime a question and she goes on and on.
And listen, the more we
I don't have to do anything.
The more exposure, the more information we could put out there, the more people we can help. And I'm all about that. I'm all about that.
Absolutely. And I think I wanted to have more and more people come on about this, especially in the last couple of years with all the unfortunate deaths that happened in bodybuilding. It became way too much out of hand, and I think people need to be more educated and so on and so forth, especially the women. And once again, guys, Jaime, Michelle, thank you. I appreciate everything that you do, and I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you very much. Remember, Cats, Clits, and Clen on YouTube, Revolutionize Nutrition. All right, and guys, do me one favor before we go. Tell everybody that they need to like and subscribe to Serious and Silliness.
Everyone needs to like and subscribe to
Serious and Silliness.
Yeah. And Michelle, you were right about what you said last time. Do you remember what you said?
No, I have no idea. I'm just giving you a thumbs up.
Okay, so you said that I made a video that top signs that women are promiscuous, and you said the only people that are going to be offended are the whores. And you were right. You were 100% right.
He says that. I go, well, I guess the only people that will be offended are the ones that are doing it. I don't know.
Right?
Or they're going to be like, fuck yeah.
And she was right. I got a couple of text messages, and I was like, I know your history. What's
Phone's
wrong
blowing
with
up, man. Look, you're causing a ruckus, man.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. Guys, thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye, guys.